Hi, and welcome back to Focal Point on AFR Talk. Brian Fisher is my name. Don't forget 8 Days of Hope coming up on July 12 through 19. Tupelo is going to be the target of this outreach because of the damage that a tornado did in the city of Tupelo on April 28. 700 homes in Tupelo damaged, 3,000 homes within a 60-mile radius. So there's a great need for volunteers to come to Tupelo for those 8 days, for 3 days, or any part of those 8 days that you can. Lodging and food will be provided for you. We need carpenters, plumbers, electricians, drywall finishers, painters. Big need for those with skill in roofing. You drive around the city of Tupelo, just one house after another with blue tarp still on the roof. We just need those with a servant's heart, a desire to help. Again, lodging and food provided for the 8 days. Just bring yourself, a servant's heart, and equipment, and you can serve and make a big difference in the lives of a lot of families in the city of Tupelo. 8 Days of Hope 11, that'll be July 12 through 19. And go to 8daysofhope.com if you want to sign up to be a volunteer in that deal. Now, I've got a column up at Rightly Concerned, as I mentioned today, and the title of my piece is that Islam is a contagion that has to be quarantined. I talked with you Friday about this column by Kevin Williamson saying, look, we need basically, the essence of what he had to say is we need to suspend Islamic immigration. This is the point that I'm making. We need to suspend Islamic immigration. Now, why do I say that? Well, because all of our intelligence officials, Lindsey Graham saying, look, they are going to launch another 9/11 from Iraq and Syria, probably from Jordan. They're going to take over Jordan, overthrow the king. That's going to be the base of operations. They are going to launch another 9/11 against the United States. Now, how did the first 9/11 happen? It happened because we permitted Islamic immigration. If there had been no Islamic immigration, no Muslim immigration, no 9/11, they wouldn't even be in the country. But we had 15 of those, 19 were from Saudi Arabia. All of them were from outside the United States, at least originally. Some of them not even legal. They all got into the United States because we had policies that allowed them to come, whether it's a tourist visa or a student visa or whatever. And Kevin Williamson saying, look, we should severely restrict student visas because that's the typical age for a Muslim jihadi, between 17 and 40. A lot of them radicalized or their radicalization accentuated while they're college age. And he says, look, our best strategy here is a quarantine. We've got this contagion. Right now it's in Iraq and Syria. It's going to be in Jordan, and we've got to contain it. We've got to wall it in. We've got to stop it there. This is an infectious contagious disease that'll destroy our culture. It'll eat it up from the inside. We've got to contain it by quarantining. We got to block it out of the United States. And you heard Mike Rogers saying, look, they want to do external operations. That was his phrase. This is like Disneyland. This is Jihad Disneyland in Syria, where people go there to get trained. And their purpose is to radicalize, train, and send back to Europe and the United States those that have Western passports. And that is the problem. These guys have Western passports. We have Americans that are fighting right now in Syria, maybe 100 of them. We know that some of them have come back, and we do not know where they are. So they've been trained in jihad in Syria. France has got this problem. A guy went to Syria, got jihadist training, came back and shot up that Jewish museum. 4 people dead. He was going after Jews. Muslim going after Jews, been to Syria, come back. Britain's got at least 500 Muslims that are right now fighting in Syria. They've got UK passports. They're going to come back. And so I think we just have to draw the curtain. We got to drop the curtain. And I told this story. This sounds severe. If somebody's got a better suggestion, I'm all ears. But there was a story I remember reading, a fascinating story from London a couple of centuries ago where there was a cholera outbreak, and they were trying to figure out where it was coming from. And some enterprising forensic medicine expert began drawing a map of all of the families where there had been a cholera outbreak, and he plotted it on this map, and he identified that they all lived around this one well. And he said, I think that's the problem. I think that well is contaminated. And I think if we want to stop this cholera outbreak, we've got to cap that well. Well, they capped the well, and the cholera outbreak, it stopped. It was this one contaminated well that was endangering the entire city. They capped the well, and the cholera epidemic is stopped. Well, I look at Islam in the same way. Now, I want to hasten to add, look, most Muslims represent no threat to us. I said it every time. I'll say it again. The vast majority of Muslims are harmless. They don't want to kill us. They don't want to destroy us. The problem is we cannot tell the difference between the Muslims that want to hurt us and the Muslims that don't. You know, and over again, we read about these American Muslims that launch jihadist attacks, and they interview their friends and their family members and their neighbors. Oh, he was the nicest guy. He was the best neighbor. He's the nicest guy you'd ever want to meet. He just loved to play basketball. He just loved his music and his video games. He was fun. He was one of us. He was a great neighbor. And then the next thing you know, they're shooting up Fort Hood, or they're blowing up the Boston Marathon, or they're blowing up a truck with 16 tons of explosives in Syria, or they're trying to blow up the Lion King Theater while kids are inside watching the movie in Times Square. And we're continually bewildered. We're continually surprised because we had no clue. We had no indication. This took us completely by surprise. It takes their family members by surprise. It takes their friends by surprise. And so the only thing I know, we just have to protect ourselves. It's a matter of national security. As I see it, Kevin Williamson saying basically the same thing. Immigration from the Middle East to the United States should be radically curtailed. Terrorism requires terrorists to be in proximity to targets. If the Middle East is indeed to be an exporter of terrorism and violence, we need not be an importer. In other words, they may want to export it. We do not have to import it. That's why the most critical fronts in the war against terrorism are our borders and our airports. That's what Kevin Williamson says. He's exactly right. One soundbite, then we'll go to the phones. This is Tom Donilon, former White House National Security Advisor. He's now part of the Council on Foreign Relations, talking with Bob Schieffer, talking about this same problem with Islamic Mujahideen that are right now in Iraq and Syria, but might not stay there.
Do you think, and we have about 20 seconds here, do you think that Maliki would be just better if he resigned?
Well, it's not clear that he can pull this off at this point, you know, we'll have to see. They have a government formation underway, and we need to see what the Iraqi people can do. The last thing I'll say is we have a real problem here brewing in terms of foreign fighters coming back into Europe and maybe even to the United States.
All right.
So that's Thomas Donilon. He's an Obama guy, and he says this: we have a real problem here brewing in terms of foreign fighters coming back into Europe and maybe even to the United States. Why? Because they have American passports, because we had a lax and I believe very foolish policy of immigration. 888-589-8840. Let's grab a call from Pam, St. Louis, Oklahoma. Let's see. Yes, we got Pam in Baker City, Oregon. Sorry, Pam, Baker City, Oregon. What's on your mind?
I have one question for you. It was mentioned a couple of days ago there were 200 contractors.
Yes.
On an Air Force base there in Iraq.
Yes.
And I'm wondering what is happening. I haven't heard it since. I'm wondering what has happened or if there's something that they are able to rescue them out of there.
Yeah, and we prayed about this on the program. I don't know if you remember that, Pam. I was so concerned and burdened for them because a command had been sent to our Air Force to stand down. They were prohibited from rendering any kind of assistance to these 200 civilian contractors, even though they were working for the Department of Defense. It sounded to me a lot like Benghazi. We need help. The military told to stand down. I mean, honestly, to me, that just boggles my mind. I don't understand any one part of that. But we prayed, Pam, and I'm not saying that our prayers were central, but I do know that that there was a response to that crisis. The Iraqi Air Force lifted them out of there. It was the Iraqi Air Force that went in and retrieved our American civilian contractors and got them out of there. Our military didn't lift a finger to help, even though these people work for the Department of Defense. So the good news, Pam, is my latest word is we got them out of there. Not we, not the United States military. They were told to stand down. Don't you help these people. And remember, these guys were, these ISIS guys, these are the people that are decapitating police officers. They're decapitating members of the Shia that they find. They're decapitating anybody that represents the enemy. They would have decapitated these civilians. So to me, inexcusable that we didn't do everything in our power to help them. But apparently they did get to safety. All right, Pam, thank you for that. Let's go to Pam in St. Louis, Oklahoma. Pam, welcome. What's on your mind?
Hi. I absolutely agree with you. Everything you've said about the Middle East, it just makes me nauseous thinking about the blood we've used up of these good people. But my comment leads towards the IRS situation. And if the IRS is denying being able to recover these emails, we know they sent them to the Justice Department. We know they sent them to the Treasury Department and all these other departments. Let's just get the emails from the other departments.
Well, and again, and I agree with you. And, Jason Chaffetz is saying, let's go to the NSA. NSA's got track of everything. So let's just go to the NSA and get their stuff on this. And the problem here, Pam, frankly, is that you got the Obama administration is in charge of everything. And they want a total blackout on this. So Jason Chaffetz saying to IRS, look, we gave you this subpoena. It's legally valid. You have no right to adjust it, to modify it. Your only obligation is to obey it, and you're not doing it. And that was 3 months ago, and now the emails have been lost. So that's the problem, Pam. If you've got a lawless administration like we have right now, I don't know who compels them to do the right thing. All right, Pam, thanks for the call. One more quick call before the break. Let's go to Ernest in Muskegon, Michigan. Ernest, welcome. What's on your mind? I got about 45 seconds.
All right, Mr. Fisher, I'll make this quick. I totally agree with you as it relates to no troops back in Iraq, and I just want to make this statement. Satan is the liar and the father of his own lie, and so is a lot of them in the White House administration. Keep up the good work, my brother. All
right, thank you, Ernest. I appreciate that. And so this thing over there, and I honestly, if somebody's got a better suggestion, we'll take your calls in the next segment. To me, it's not Islamophobia, it's Islamo-realism. There are people of the Islamic faith that want to kill us in the name of Allah. Right now, we don't have any foolproof way to identify them, to distinguish them from the many Muslims, the great majority of Muslims that do not mean us harm. But Kevin Williamson's point is that, look, the first priority here is the security and safety of our own people. That's paramount. Nobody has a constitutional right to immigrate into the United States. That is not a right that anybody on planet Earth has. If Congress says no more Muslims, then those are the rules. Congress can do that because Constitution invests that authority in Congress. Focal Point and AFR Talk back in 2.